Starting Tech News Weekly in 3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, welcome to Tech News Weekly. I'm Andrew Zarin. Of course, I'm joined by John, as I am each and every week. How you doing, John?
Hey, Andrew, what's up?
You look marvelous today.
Gee, thank you.
Thank you very much. We got a new video card here at the studio on one of the Skype machines, and for people who have been following the show, John has always been just a little bit red. It's like this purple tint, and for whatever reason, it only shows up on your camera. It was rare on other ones. Like sometimes I would put Spencer on that computer, and you'd see it, but it was really red on yours. So I finally threw out that video card. It was an older ATI, I think like a 5450 or whatever. I think something like that, 5650, 5450. And I put a GT, it's an NVIDIA 610, GT 610. And this thing looks great.
It's amazing the difference in quality between video cards.
By the way, I paid $38 for that video card.
I know, but even then, it's like if you throw out something that was several years old and get something that's new today, it's just amazing the quality difference.
Yeah, so phenomenal card. I actually, it's not my pick of the week, but I think we should put it in the notes because it's when people do Skype, a lot of our viewers that watch the show do podcasts on their own and they do video podcasts, and a lot of people ask like, what are some things that really are not thought about when you're doing it? And the video card is number one. Like a lot of people don't think about the quality that the video card, how the quality is affected by the video card. So I got this card. The reviews are not that great for gaming, but everything else people are saying that it was a good card. I know that it's an NVIDIA, so obviously it's a decent card, and it looks great. Nice natural colors.
Yeah. Obviously, if you're into gaming, you're going to get something that's going to be a lot more expensive than what you got.
Yeah, sure. I mean, listen, if you're doing like Warcraft, you should be fine with that. You're playing WoW, you're okay with that. So, just a little note. We've been off for a couple of weeks. We're back. The show's on. We're going to have some major changes to the way that we do our video over the next week. We're rerouting our entire setup again. It seems like that's been the case for the last 2 weeks, John, that we're constantly moving things.
It's been a slower upgrade this year to things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been the waiting
we've been doing upgrades, but they've been a lot more incremental.
Yeah, no major shifts. You're not going to see a major studio redesign for a while now. It's going to take some time. I think I'm finally settled in on this setup. I'm comfortable finally. And God only knows, I must be comfortable to do this. It's a lot of work to talk for an hour. Why don't we go to some tech news, John? Last week we were off, so some of the stuff we're going to cover is from the previous week, but a lot also happened this week. Mobile World Congress is happening right now in Europe, and a lot of phone announcements. Nokia announced their Normandy project. For the last couple months, we've been hearing about Project Normandy, that they've been working on Android devices. Weird, considering the fact that they're Microsoft now, but this is part of the Nokia side of things. They announced 3 phones. The X, I think 2 phones?
3.
3 phones, yeah. The X,
technically it was 3, but really only people care about the first 2. So
the X and the X Plus are the really big ones that people actually care about. They are emerging market phones, so we're not getting it in the States. We're not getting it in North America. I'm assuming it's going to be South America, India, China, and other developing nations.
Wait, so why are we talking about this?
Because, John, it has Android on it. And it's Nokia.
Yeah.
And it's a little weird that Nokia is putting out an Android phone. I actually think this is really cool. I would love to get my hands on this phone because it's not the traditional Android that we know of. It's their core is Android, but everything else has been changed. Literally, the phone does not resemble a Google experience Android phone at all.
Yeah, apparently they're putting this ported version of what's called Fast Lane for Asha devices. It's sort of a skin similar to what your experience is on other budget phones.
I actually think it's pretty cool that they're playing around with this idea. It's going to be inexpensive. It's going to be very inexpensive. We're looking at around $140, $129 for the phone. It's not going to have really high-end specs. It's going to be a much lower specs than what we're used to with their Windows Phone line. The X is going to have a 4-inch screen, 840 by 480 IPS screen, 512 megs of RAM, 4 gigs of internal storage, 3 megapixel camera. The X Plus is going to have the same specs, but it's going to have a little bit more RAM and include a 4 gig micro SD card on it. So we're not getting this, wow, look how great this phone is. It is a...
I'm not wondering whether or not they're using Android for this, particularly because they're using such lower end specs for hardware. Whereas with Windows Phone, I think, if I'm not mistaken, they started out this whole Windows Phone thing saying that, all right, we're going to have some standards here. This is the hardware requirements. If you want to use Windows Phones, you must meet these minimum requirements for making a Windows Phone device. Whereas with Android, you don't have those requirements. So maybe that's why they're using Android for this purpose.
That is why they're using Android. The cool thing, the interesting thing behind all this is that there's no Play Store, obviously, but they will have their own app store, and they are not using Google services. They're using Microsoft services.
That's interesting.
And, like, you know...
Is it Microsoft or Yandex that you're using? Because there was somebody that said... Because Yandex also came out with an announcement saying that you could use their service in place of Google recently.
No, they're going to be using, like, the back end of their stuff is going to be Microsoft services. Like, their email client is going to be Outlook. It's going to use Skype.
Weird.
It's going to use
That
Here
is
Maps.
so confusing to have that sort of service alongside Android, you know?
Yeah, so it's going to use Mix Radio, which I believe is Microsoft, Nokia. It's going to use Here Maps. It's also going to use Skype and Outlook. So it's connecting to the cloud services system as far as, you know, Microsoft goes. But what does this mean as far as Microsoft? Like, maybe this should have been their goal and how they distributed a phone. Maybe instead of creating a Windows Phone, maybe they should have done this and just relied on the services. The services is what sells the product.
Yeah. Well, this is fascinating because Microsoft also just recently announced a cheaper licensing for Windows 7 or Windows 8, excuse me, a cheaper licensing option for Windows 8 to help compete against these new generation netbooks called Chromebooks.
Are you also talking about the possible free version of 8.1?
No, I'm talking about the cheap version of Windows 8 that they have now for devices that are under $250.
Do you think it's necessary? I mean, the Chromebooks, obviously people are buying this thing and there's a lot of buzz around it, but do you consider it a competitor?
I think it's a part of the market. I don't know if it's a competitor. It's part of the market. And what this, to me, kind of proves is that there are markets out there where you have this need for lower cost options. Whereas, like I was saying, the problem with Windows Phone is that it has these minimum hardware requirements whereby you could not make these devices that Nokia just made for emerging markets with Windows Phone on it. You would have to use Android. So I'm just wondering whether or not Microsoft needs to adjust some of the requirements or come out with new requirements or some way to do lower end devices for emerging markets with Windows Phone on it, that they'll fall in line with these costs for emerging markets.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the whole thing, is that with these low cost Android phones, it's low cost for these emerging markets, whereby if you were using Windows Phone, you would never be able to make a device that costs that low that meets those minimum requirements.
Yeah, I mean, in all fairness, Microsoft did reduce the licensing fee for Windows Phone recently. They're reducing the fee for Windows itself, and now The Verge is reporting that Microsoft is experimenting with a free version of Windows 8.1 called Windows 8.1 with Bing. It's going to be a lightweight version of the operating system, obviously focusing on bundling Microsoft apps and services in order to drive the cost. So I'm assuming they're going to sell the services rather than selling the software.
That would make sense with the new CEO that they've got now.
I mean, it makes sense, and this is a great way for them to compete with the Chromebook. This is a great way for them to compete in this entry-level market, because you know what? Regardless of a Chromebook really being a laptop, right? I mean, obviously it doesn't have the hard drive, it doesn't have the storage capabilities, but if you're just doing emails and you're browsing the web and you're doing Facebook and occasionally chatting with your friends, that's more than enough. and it's $250.
But this is what I'm saying is that Microsoft has somewhat of Achilles heels when it comes to these low cost markets. They've never been very good at it. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be or should be. It's just something that historically they've never been great at the low cost markets out there.
Yeah. Also, this Windows 8 with Bing that The Verge is reporting, they're saying this is going to be either a very low cost or free option for people to upgrade from Windows 7. I, for one, will not be upgrading from Windows 7 to Windows 8. But, for a lot of people, it may be enough if someone says, here you go, this is free, take it. That may be enough to get them to 8.1. I just find it interesting that they're considering this with, possibly a Windows 9 coming out April 2015.
Yeah.
Interesting. I think the more likely thing is for them to, have a sub $250 price range laptop to compete with the Chromebook. That's really what it looks like to me.
But then again, like Paul said earlier this week on What the Tech, there are none.
There are none.
They have this new licensing option, but you don't have any devices that are out there right now that even could do that.
That Chromebook, that HP Chromebook that everybody's buying, they have an 11-inch and a 14-inch version of it. That's a really pretty laptop.
It's not horrible. I mean, for what it is, it's pretty good.
Forget about the specs. I'm just saying cosmetically. When you look at this laptop, it reminds you of those white MacBooks, obviously. And obviously that's what it's trying to do. But it is a pretty looking laptop. And that's what a lot of people go for. They see this thing, they see that it's an attractive looking device. They see the price is $200. And they justify the purchase. Even if they're not 100% satisfied with it, they're not going to be doing photo editing or video editing. They're taking this device and they're saying, well, you know what? I paid $200, and if it breaks, it breaks. If I lose it, I lose it. Whatever. It's a thoughtless purchase, much like a tablet. I think now, John, though, we've kind of gotten numb to these releases. So rather than buying these things every year, it's taken us 2 years to update. But every time that Nexus device came out, people are buying it. Every time an iPad came out, people are buying it. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot more than $250 for an iPad. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think it's interesting with this licensing thing.
We're not an emerging market here.
No, we're not an emerging market, but I do feel that a device like this would be good for the U.S. market as well. Look at the Nokia 520, for example. That is a lower end, it's the lowest end Windows phone on the market. Tons of people have bought this thing. I have purchased it. Why? Unsubsidized, $100. That device is also doing phenomenal in emerging markets. When I was in Mexico, almost every phone that I saw was a Windows phone. Bizarre. And you know what they were? 520s. 520s everywhere.
World.
521 or 520, whichever one is the non-US version. Everybody was using a Windows phone. I think the reason for that is that it's a prepaid option. In a lot of emerging markets, they don't do plans, they do prepaid. I got an email from a viewer. He's in China. He's American and he's studying in China. And he gave us a very interesting perspective of what's happening outside of the US and in China when it comes to phones. I'm going to read that email on Tuesday on What the Tech. It's going to surprise a lot of people, the things that he's saying. But one point that he's making is that the commitment to a contract does not exist for most places. They like the prepaid option. And I think we're starting to get used to that in the US. So technically, these devices would do well here as well. I don't know. Yeah. It's just something to look at. John, I know you have had, and I brought this up on What the Tech again. I brought you up, and I was talking about your experience with Netflix. Mm-hmm. Before we go into the story, you have Comcast, correct?
Yes.
And you have Netflix. I want you to tell us your experience with Netflix. Because it's totally different from what I experienced with Netflix.
And I'm going to be completely honest with you here. And I know that in the past we've had Netflix as a sponsor, but in my experience, and I'm not blaming Netflix specifically for this, but in my experience, Netflix has been mostly unusable. Mostly. I've been able to watch a few things here and there, but it's either been in the lowest quality SD. barely watchable. But most of the time, even if I do try to go watch a movie, I'm trying to force it into a high enough bit rate that it'll be at least 720p. But even then, for whatever reason, I'm just not being able to get enough data from Netflix to watch these movies in 720p, and it just stops and buffers. Barely even plays, if at all.
So I have never experienced that, and I have Verizon Fios. Now, I'm using a wireless connection. You're using a wired connection.
Yeah, and just for stats out there, I have 25 megabits per second down.
Yeah, so there should be no reason.
Enough. Yeah. I can just for comparison's sake, I have Amazon Prime. I can go and watch videos on Amazon Prime and 1080p, no problem.
Interesting. So Netflix came out this week. Netflix and Comcast put out a press release saying that there's a deal now. Netflix deal with Comcast sends its traffic and money directly to the ISP instead of the middleman. So essentially what they have done is pay Comcast to get a direct pipe to Comcast data centers.
I don't know if it's a direct pipe, but it's not a direct pipe. They're just paying for a better path between Netflix, because they're still using third-party data centers to transfer all this data through. So it's not direct. They're just making it easier for the path to get to the end user between Comcast and Netflix.
So the middleman still exists.
The middleman still exists. They're just paying for better routes.
A better route for it. Yeah.
Last week, I think it came out that Comcast was intentionally funneling Netflix traffic through worse routes or non-direct routes to Comcast customers, thereby having a quality of service issue for anybody on Comcast watching Netflix.
Now, Comcast does have a Netflix competitor also. They have their own Xfinity. Have you ever used their Xfinity streaming, whatever they call it?
Yeah, it's okay. It's not great. I wouldn't call it great or anything. It's okay. Just okay. It's nothing to write home about. And this is one of the things that I think is frustrating. Because I have Comcast cable TV as well, but their on-demand service is completely different from their online streaming service.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%.
Which makes absolutely no sense to me. If I can watch it on my TV, why can't I go into my computer when I have Comcast internet and watch the same stuff that's on demand?
Yeah. Now the other story is that Time Warner Cable is also in negotiation with Netflix. And so was Verizon for Fios. Many people with Verizon Fios have complained about the same exact problem that you're complaining about. How it takes forever for things to buffer. Every other service is fine. Hulu's fine. Amazon is fine. Just Netflix is the problem. I've never experienced that actually with Netflix. My Netflix connection is always stellar. I always have a really good experience with it. No matter what device I'm on, I don't have a problem. But I've heard the other side of the argument where people are saying, well, no, it sucks for me. It's really bad. Do you feel that this is a fair thing to do, that a company like Netflix is now paying the ISP for a better route? Because technically then, not all packets are being treated equally at all. And Verizon and Comcast and Time Warner have come out and stated that all packets are treated equally. Well, no, because now these packets are paid for.
I think it can go either way, because in a way this kind of highlights the problem of the infrastructure of the internet between data centers, between users. It's not always all that great. On one hand, you have Netflix, which is a bandwidth hog. There's no doubt about that. They're using like 30% of the internet traffic is Netflix.
A combination of Netflix and YouTube are combined taking up over 50% of the internet's traffic during peak hours. So,
and part of the problem, though, is the fact that you have these middlemen, these routes in the middle, where you don't always necessarily get the best routes between Netflix and the customer. So I think it is, in a way, acceptable for them to pay these data centers or Comcast, these ISPs, for direct routes. I think that's a great idea.
You think that's a good idea?
You cannot. Well, the problem is getting all these people in the middle to behave correctly, because we've had these issues ourselves.
Absolutely,
with
level
FTP
3
transfers.
I mean, we had, remember that issue we had with level 3 for a long time, where we, for whatever reason, there was a problem between me and Nashville with Kirk on his show, and we found out through looking at all the hops that the problem was in Atlanta, and it was a level 3 hop. And who do you call to fix that? You tell me. How do you fix a problem like that? There's nothing you could do.
The average customer can't. The average customer cannot do that. I had another similar situation last month where one of the websites that I get my website analytics from was completely unreachable. Absolutely unreachable to the majority of Comcast customers for whatever reason.
And there's nothing you could do when that happens.
The only reason it got resolved is because there was a large enough base of people affected by it that Comcast had to reach out and do something about it to figure out where the problem was and contact the problem provider and fix it.
Yeah, I mean, these are issues. So, I mean, my problem, obviously, it's a Skype. I was doing Skype. It's only for an hour. But if you are a company like Netflix and your entire business is based on user experience, if the end user could not watch your content, they're not going to pay for your content, and also you're going to get a bad reputation of not having great service. That is really bad for you. They kind of have to pay to make sure that the connection is stable and they're getting a direct route or a closer to direct route. I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing. Now, the bad thing is, well, let's say us, for example, right? Let's say we have a video streaming service. We're not going to get that priority that Netflix is. So
right, and we don't have enough money to pay them off.
And we don't have enough money to pay them off. We're a smaller company. We're offering the same thing that Netflix is. But again, I'm not saying us. I'm saying this hypothetical company. How do we compete with a company like Netflix that's getting a direct connection?
I think the problem is when you have the ISPs intentionally not upgrading their equipment to handle the throughput of traffic, or intentionally rerouting traffic to make it worse than it should be, which in a way is what Comcast was doing.
Yeah. So now when the
ISP intentionally makes the service worse for the customer, I think that's an issue.
Has there been proof that they are doing that? That they're intentionally making it worse?
That seems to be the consensus, that they either weren't adding enough capacity to their networks to handle that traffic. It's very confusing in all these terms and everything to figure out where exactly the problem lies. But it does seem like Comcast was intentionally rerouting traffic from Netflix to make it worse.
Huh.
That's my understanding anyway.
Has this gone into effect yet? Has the
I think for some users it has, but I think they're still rolling it out.
Have you noticed any changes?
I haven't even tried.
Yeah. I'm curious to see that. I'm really curious to see if there's been any changes to this.
It may not have even rolled out to my area yet. So,
yeah. I mean, we've been talking about this for a while now.
Like,
yeah.
That's great that they're doing this, but it'd also be great if they could tell you who's gotten this benefit now. I
mean, you were mentioning the FTP situation that we've had. According to Verizon, they don't do anything with the FTPs. They don't. They're not.
It's been slower lately, by the way.
Of course, it has.
I've noticed that. Normally, I'll download it at about 3 megabits per second. I'm only getting 2 now.
Verizon, technically, they do not want you to use an FTP, but they don't throttle it. They don't do anything to it. I've had conversations with them multiple times, and finally, somebody once said, yes, depending on what packets are being used a lot, depending on what services you're using, they will make a decision on what to do with that. It was a very vague explanation, but to me that means, you know what? If they realize it's an FTP, they're going to throttle it.
It's interesting because people don't realize...
But they don't do it to BitTorrent, I'll tell you that.
People don't realize how complex it is to get data from one point to the next point, to get it from wherever your computer is to me. People don't understand how complex that is.
Yeah, no, very complex. Very complex.
And I don't think, I would say that the majority of people that you would call up for customer support would have absolutely no idea about that.
No, they're going to tell you to restart your router.
Until you get to a level of an actual network engineer. Nobody's going to know.
Why don't you pick a story, John?
Let's take a look. Let's talk about the Samsung Galaxy S5 that was announced at Mobile World Congress.
Yes.
I don't think we talked about that, and that was kind of a long-awaited announcement. Everybody was waiting. All right, finally, we're finally getting the Samsung Galaxy S5, the successor to the S4. It's coming with a 5.1-inch display, a fingerprint scanner, and a heart rate monitor. So this is kind of their answer to the iPhone 5S. They've added their own fingerprint scanner to it, but they've also thrown in this heart rate monitor. They're kind of positioning this as a health and fitness device for people as well.
It's very interesting because iOS 8 has been rumored to be focusing on that as well. That is going to be the primary focus with iOS 8. It's going to be health and fitness.
Yeah.
And I believe that's going to be their way to unveil whatever this iWatch will be. You know, this companion device will be for Apple. Interesting that they're jumping on this. Samsung is jumping on this. Obviously, now it kind of confirms it for me that this will be the focus in iOS 8 and this will be the focus with the iPhone 6. Again, nice looking phone. I've never thought these are beautiful phones. It just, to me, it's become this evolutionary device that they put out every year. I don't know how good the camera is. Nobody's speaking about the camera quality. I'm sure it's going to be okay, nothing great. And for me, that's what I care about. So I don't know. What do you think of this phone, John? It's a nice phone. It's okay. It's like every other Android phone.
It's another evolution.
Just another Android phone.
I think this is something we've seen in the last. This is something we've kind of seen for the last 7 years now. Is you kind of had these devices that run a course over about 5 years. You'll have a course or a lifespan, or a generation of these devices or something, whereby you. And I think iPhone is somewhat of a little bit of an exception. But really, you're looking at devices to come in and disrupt. That's really the way that things work now, is that until new devices with something different come along, you're not going to see much change. You're just not.
The
iPhone did that, Android did that, Windows Phone did that.
Yeah, I mean, and to get a phone in that's going to disrupt or a product, it's a gamble. And these companies have a product that works. They're not going to take a gamble, and they're not going to take a major, huge swing at trying to hit a home run when they already have something that's doing really well. You know, Apple had to put out an iPhone. There was nothing else. Windows Phone had to put out a Windows Phone. And, you know, all these, and Samsung had to put out the S line, and they've done really well with it. Now, the watches, the gears that they put out, there's 3 of them now. Samsung announced 3 Gear watches.
They have a new version out, the Gear 2 or something.
They have a new version, but there's also a smaller version, which...
Yeah, the Gear 2.
No, not the Gear 2. It's like the Gear... I lost the name here. There's a Gear 2, there's another Gear, and they have a smaller one where it's like a much smaller screen. It's about, if I'm holding up my hand like this is what it looks like. That, to me, is a lot more appealing than a giant screen on your hand. I don't know. To me, that's the Gear Fit. There you go. Gear Fit. That's the one. I'm trying to find an image, but something like that is pretty cool. I know you don't care about the fitness stuff, but a lot of people do.
It's a niche.
It is.
I don't think. I think there's a group of people out there that are into that stuff, but I think there's also a large group of people that don't give a crap.
Yeah. Talking about not giving a crap, Sony is shutting down 2/3 of their U.S. stores. Sony Electronics is closing 20 of its 31 U.S.-based stores. The Japanese consumer electronic giant announced this afternoon. It follows layoffs at Sony, approximately 5,000 employees worldwide. It's unclear if it's Europe or Asia only, but they're going to be closing a lot of these Sony stores. I have to tell you, we have one around here, and I've never seen anybody in it.
I did not even know they had Sony stores.
Oh, John, they have a giant, and they opened these things before the whole Apple store thing happened. They've had these for a while. The Sony store in the Roosevelt Field Mall.
I've never seen one.
It's been there forever. Gigantic store, TVs everywhere. They have every single Sony product known to man. There's not one person that I've ever seen in the store. In the last, let's say, 10 years that this thing has existed, or even more, I've gone in the store once, and that was a couple months ago, to look at the 8K TVs. They had an 8K TV.
You have to have a very, very loyal following in order to have your very own store.
I mean, look, Apple's successful with it.
Apple is one of those brands that has a very, very loyal following.
But you know what's interesting with Sony? They were onto something. That Vio line that they had in the 2000s, it was the first of its kind. It was a premium Windows laptop. It was very good looking. The design was nice. Nobody was doing it. And the problem was that it was a little too overpriced. Number two, nobody bought it.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody buys Sony TVs. Nobody's buying a Sony TV. I don't know anybody with a Sony TV. I really don't. And that's bizarre, because it's not saying that the TVs are bad. It's just nobody's buying Sony TVs. You go to the store, you see a Vizio, you see a Samsung, and that's what you're grabbing. It's a shame what happened with this company. They just were not able to evolve beyond the 90s.
But you could say very much the same for BlackBerry. BlackBerry at one point had a couple of its own stores, and nobody ever went to their stores either.
Yeah, well, BlackBerry, to talk about BlackBerry a little bit, this is a weird turn of events. I've been one of these people that, I hear everybody talking about Ford Sync and Ford MyTouch. Right? Everybody talks about this stuff. They've taken out ads on other podcasts. People praise the Ford MyTouch and the Ford Sync powered by Microsoft. So I decided, when I was looking for Justin's new car a year and a half ago, we were going to go to Ford, and I was going to test out the Ford Edge. I'm probably not. I wasn't going to buy the Ford Edge, but I wanted to test it out, and I want to see what the Ford MyTouch stuff is, because everybody talks about this. It is the biggest piece of crap I've ever used. Does not respond at all. I mean, I almost felt it was so bizarre to me, the entire experience with this software on it, that I was missing something. Like, it didn't make sense that my experience was so bad on this.
You know what that
thing.
is, though, right? That's marketing. That is successful marketing.
Yeah.
Which a lot of brands don't even have, is successful marketing. BlackBerry does not have successful marketing. No,
it doesn't. And whatever Ford did with this marketing of this device, it convinced a lot of people that this is something good. I thought it was a big piece of crap. And I actually asked the guy, I'm like, is this how it works? He's like, and the guy at the dealership, the car salesman, goes, yeah, they're not that great. I really don't like it. I'm like, man, so many people are praising this thing. It's awful. So, not a surprise to me. Actually, it's so bad that Ford's customer approval rating has dropped significantly because of Ford Sync and Ford MyTouch. Because it's so bad, the user experience on this thing. So now the story's coming out. Bloomberg is reporting that BlackBerry's QNX system will be replacing Ford MyTouch.
That would be a very interesting move.
I've actually used the QNX system in the car. I went to an AT&T event a year ago, and they had, I'm trying to think, I think it was like a Porsche or a Jaguar, and they had it outfitted with QNX.
Yeah, for people that don't understand what we're talking about, QNX is basically BlackBerry. I think QNX owns BlackBerry, or BlackBerry owns QNX.
BlackBerry owns QNX. I'm trying to find an image of the QNX platform in the car, because it was stellar. It was so good. It was so responsive. I was like, wow, this thing is actually really kick-ass. I didn't expect it to be that good. But when I saw how good it was, I'm like, oh, this will never happen. This is never going to happen. This is maybe like a year and a half, 2 years ago. Turns out it is happening.
And QNX has been a player in the automotive software provider business for a long while now, long before BlackBerry ever has.
Yeah, but not like not in an entertainment way, right? Like they're powering the back end of the navigation systems, but it's nothing impressive. It's not. We're not talking about this full-fledged, beautiful UI. It was just the back end, but now they've gotten really aggressive.
QNX mainly has been enterprise software.
Yeah, they're
like
partnering.
subway systems. They run stuff like that. Control systems.
So here's an example of, here's a little video. I want to play for a couple seconds of some examples of QNX in the car. So as you can see, the odometer, everything is pretty much computerized and is running through BlackBerry's QNX system.
Which is very impressive.
Very impressive. This is a very impressive piece of software. I have QNX system in my Jeep. One of the features is the speed in the vehicle. It's more important. So somebody does have QNX. I guess Jeep is using QNX. I didn't know that.
What could you imagine having an entire dashboard display that's a screen that can be changed to whatever function that you need at that time, whether it's the navigation, whether it's odometers, etc.
Just curious, what year Jeep is it? Oh, so here it is. Here's an example of QNX in a Jeep. Very cool. I mean, it's a really good interface. I'm just really, in a way, I'm kind of glad that Ford has come out and said, you know what, Ford MyTouch didn't work for us, because so many people said how this thing is great and it's the future. I'm just really glad for that. I'm glad it failed. That's what I'm trying to say.
You're cynical.
One more for BlackBerry. One more for them. Last hope. 2012 Grand Cherokee. Okay, so it's a newer car. Excellent.
Yeah, I wonder if it's going to be more QNX than it is BlackBerry.
Yeah, it's going to be more QNX than BlackBerry. It's probably going to say powered by BlackBerry, but that's about it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all it's going to be. The WWE, we were talking about Netflix a little while ago. The WWE has entered the world of online streaming. The WWE Network has
here
launched.
Just for you.
Thank you. I'm so glad you did. The WWE Network has launched. I own the WWE Network. I know a lot of people. I own the entire thing. I'm a subscriber of the service. And a couple things, and I'm going to comment on this because I'm going to talk a little bit more about it later on in the show. But $10 a month, you're getting access to, I think they said over 120,000 hours of content. They have the entire archive of pretty much professional wrestling in North America. They own everything at this point. Really solid, great idea. But a few issues. They had a rocky first week. Really rocky first week. Yesterday, they had the first live event on the service, and halfway through the show, the entire stream died. So they've been encountering a lot of problems. Now, this is powered by Major League Baseball. MLB Network is powering this entire thing, and they have been astonished at how many people have signed up. Potentially, I believe because of the order numbers, you could kind of tell what number it started at, and they are over 350,000 subscribers in a couple days. That's in 4 days, 3 days. I think it was 3 days they had over. So they're getting about 100,000 subscribers a day. That's astonishing for a very niche product. Now, I'm going to talk more about this later on, but I do want to touch on them being one of the first major television brands to say, you know what? We're still going to offer our TV programming, but we'll forget about pay-per-view. We're removing pay-per-view, and we're giving you guys all this online exclusive content that we're actually putting effort in, and we're not half-assing. Because you'll see that with other networks, right? They'll have an online TV show, and you could tell that they're half-assing it. They don't care about it.
Yeah.
They're actually caring about it, and their online stuff, phenomenal. Great original programming. This is a great step in the right direction. And I'm going to talk about it in a little bit, actually. I just wanted to touch on that as kind of a segue into another story. So, John, why don't you pick a story?
I kind of want to talk about the Bitcoin stuff that's been going on this week, or last couple of weeks, really. It was just announced today that popular Bitcoin exchange Mt. Gox has filed for bankruptcy protection. They announced earlier this month that they were kind of shutting down services because they were afraid that transactions were being made fraudulently and all sorts of stuff. It has been confirmed by Mt. Gox's CEO, Mark Karpeles. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. At the new conference that they had today in Tokyo, he did confess that about 850,000 Bitcoins, which translates to about $480 million, have disappeared from the exchange due to a weakness in the system. And now you have a lot of scrutiny over Bitcoin, and especially one senator, Joe Manchin, I think, is saying that we should have a complete U.S. ban on Bitcoin.
You know, I don't understand why we should have a ban. I don't necessarily agree with that, but this is a unregulated commodity that has no protection, very little protection. You don't know anything about these companies that are an exchange for these for Bitcoin. There's tons of other cryptocurrencies out there now. It's a very unstable market, and a lot of people like to compare it to the stock exchange, which sure you could compare it to the stock exchange.
That was kind of my comparison a little bit.
Absolutely,
I mean it's a high risk,
very high risk, very high risk environment. It's very volatile. It could, be $1,000 a Bitcoin and all the way drop tomorrow for who knows what reason.
Or it could get stolen.
It could get stolen. So there's a lot of stuff going wrong with it. But I don't think it's a fair.
I think that's completely ironic. The fact that they're calling this Bitcoin as a cryptocurrency, yet it can it's been shown that it's easily hackable.
Yeah.
Or in some cases, outright stolen by the exchange operators.
Where I do not now, it is comparable to the stock exchange, but I don't think it's fair to compare it to the stock exchange. The reason why is that with the stock exchange, there are certain things that companies have to do to become a traded company. They have to prove, they have to file, they have to, it's very much regulated. Yeah, fraud happens in the stock market, absolutely, but it's far less than something like this happening. There's accountability happening in the stock exchange. You have a company that you're backing, so you can kind of predict how well the company is going to do because they have to show earnings. I don't know anything about Bitcoin. I don't know anything about Dogecoin. I don't know anything about Litecoin, Dogecoin, or Dogcoin, whatever it is, or Litecoin, for example. I don't know anything about these things.
Neither do I.
And it's a very unstable market. I know a lot of people are making money on it right now, but I don't recommend anyone to go and invest money into it.
You know what it is though is that Bitcoin and Litecoin have actually been around for a number of years now. And it hasn't until recently, in the last I'd say year and a half, that it's picked up so much popularity that it's actually become a target of itself.
Sure,
and
but
I think that's part of it because I don't remember quite as many issues with Bitcoin and Litecoin until this year, until the last 6 months.
I know people that have actually made money. I have a friend in 2009 got into Bitcoin, and he would always tell me about Bitcoin.
Mike in the chat room says Bitcoin is straight up a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, I guess, because people are mining it, right?
Right, and you have these pools where whoever operates the pool, who's ever higher up in the pool makes the most money.
Sure, that's a Ponzi scheme or a pyramid scheme. But you could also go and buy Bitcoin. You could go to a Bitcoin exchange and buy Bitcoin.
Yes.
I mean, I could take my US dollars and convert it into Bitcoin, but then what do you do? Like, it's bizarre to me. The entire Bitcoin thing is bizarre to me. Is it a fad?
Because
yes.
Yeah, it's a fad, but you've also have a lot of places that have picked up on this and are now accepting Bitcoin as a form of payment.
How many, you know what? I know that Overstock.com is using it, and Overstock.com has not been relevant in a good 10 years. So that's why they're doing it. But how many people are actually using their Bitcoins on Overstock.com? I guarantee you, it is a tiny fraction of a percentage of their user base. Nobody's doing it.
There's very few people that even have Bitcoin. Vance Willis in the chat room says he's got 2 Bitcoins.
Yeah, and he probably had a couple grand right there. Couple grand. It's phenomenal. I mean, really. I would.
But do you think it needs to be banned? Do you think there should be regulation? Do you think the government should regulate this?
I don't know. I don't know enough about the market to comment if there should be government intervention. I do think there needs to be more protection so things like this do not happen where there are no weaknesses in the system. Can you imagine? If NASDAQ
in the system sounds so much like them
getting hacked,
outright stealing?
No, or getting hacked.
Either, yeah. but more likely outright stealing.
Can you imagine the New York Stock Exchange turning around and saying, hey guys, by the way, we lost $500 million worth of transactions because we had a weakness in the system? That won't happen. I mean, you've had weird computer glitches happen, but it's still so new. I don't even know where to go with this. I've tried to do some homework on the Bitcoin thing because it is fascinating to me. It's fascinating because a lot of people are making money from it, but there's really...
You're just greedy.
Kind of. I mean, I want to make some money from it. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people buy it because it's a hot thing right now, and they think they can make money from it, which is perfectly fine. Listen, make money however you want to make it. I'm okay with that. Totally cool with that. If you have any Bitcoins, you could give me some.
Very interesting. I think I don't know if I would go an outright ban, but I think it does need to be regulated. The problem is, how are you going to regulate something that honestly is so little regulated as it
doesn't
is
exist
now?
I mean, it's just numbers,
and a lot of it is in other countries.
Yeah,
you can't regulate that. You just can't.
Yeah,
T-Mobile have to have some sort of international body to regulate it.
Hey, talking about government intervention, U.S. government, U.S. Postal Service is offering a Steve Jobs commemorative stamp in 2015. Unlike the 40-something cent stamp, this stamp is going to be $1.50, and it's going to be a premium stamp.
What?
I just made that entire thing up. But see how easy you believed it?
I told you I didn't read some of these stories.
I think that's cool. Steve Jobs getting a stamp. I'm okay with that. I don't hate it. T-Mobile offering upgraded BlackBerry users. They're offering users $250 following backlash. So, John, do you know the story here? BlackBerry users on T-Mobile who want it.
This is a fascinating story in the sense that what happened is that T-Mobile was saying that, hey, iPhone users, or I don't know if they specifically said iPhone users, but they're saying, hey, if you have an old phone, we'll give you $200 to trade it in for a new phone or an iPhone. So come in and trade in your phone, your old BlackBerry, give it to us. We'll give you $200 for a new phone. Apparently, BlackBerry CEO John Chen was very unhappy and upset by that move, called out T-Mobile CEO personally, saying that they should not have done that was a slap in the face towards BlackBerry, and that they need to rectify that situation.
Yeah.
So what you have now is T-Mobile saying, okay, all right, if you're trading in a BlackBerry, we'll give you an additional $50 if you buy another BlackBerry.
Oh, you'll get $250 if you get another BlackBerry. Yeah.
If you trade in your old BlackBerry for a new BlackBerry.
I like the BlackBerry phones. I'm the only one, but I think they're phenomenal phones. Just nobody else agrees with me.
Yeah, you're probably the only one.
I'm probably the only one. Facebook to buy WhatsApp for $19 billion. This is an astonishing story. I don't know how a company is evaluated at $19 billion. By the way, it's equivalent to $19 billion in cash and stock. The deal will see WhatsApp run a semi-independent company, much like Instagram. The chat service will maintain its brand and existing offices, but it'll take advantage of Facebook's experience, resources, and scale. It's so $19 billion for a company that has virtually no revenue. While I think Motorola was how much did they buy how much did Google actually buy Motorola for? $9 billion
is in the users.
$9 billion. WhatsApp has over 450 million active users every month. Combining that with Facebook messaging and competitors like Line suddenly appears tiny by comparison. 450 million users. There's a lot of users. They're just not making money with them.
Yeah.
Apparently,
I don't buy this for a second that they're going to be their own separate group from Facebook.
I mean, Instagram is.
Yeah, we're going to take advantage of Facebook's experience.
But look at Instagram.
Operate on our own.
Look at Instagram.
But they're not.
Yeah. Google, actually, there was an update to the story. Google reportedly offered to buy WhatsApp for $10 billion. Can you imagine, Can you imagine this guy? Which I believe you've interviewed.
Would you turn down $10 billion for GFQ?
But you've interviewed him, right?
A long time
ago.
2008.
Yeah, so you've interviewed this guy
6 years ago.
Can you imagine, like, Larry Page has a meeting with you and says, listen, we like your service. We're going to give you $10 billion. And you go, you know what? I think we could get another 10 out of this. What balls you must have to actually say, you know what? Joe, you're having a drink. I think I could get another $10 billion. That is an insane
I know
thing.
Exactly how you would react if somebody offered $10 billion for GFQ.
Feats don't fail me now.
Exactly. You'd be like, F all of y'all. I am out of here. See you never again, ever.
I'm buying an island, just hanging out. You will never see me online ever again, John. It's gone. It's over. You'll get $1 million.
That's what I'm saying.
You know what? I'll give you $1 million. You'll get a little package in the mail. That's it. It'll say sayonara, suckers. That's about it. Since we're on the Google topic, before we go into our picks of the week, I want to talk about Google Fiber a little bit. We were talking about ISPs. We were talking about the issues with Netflix and services like that. Google is looking to expand their gigabit internet service to another 34 cities. Right now, they have 9 announced. I think 9 they're going to be doing it first, and then they're going to expand beyond that. Atlanta, Charlotte, North Carolina, Raleigh-Durham area in North Carolina, Nashville, Phoenix, Portland, Salt Lake City, San Antonio, and San Jose, California. These are the cities that will be getting it within the next year or two. I think this is awesome. I think this is phenomenal. I don't see it coming to New York for a long time. Because it is the regulation to get into New York. It's kind of tough. It's bizarre how it's working. But this is exciting that Google's actually now they've decided to spread their service. I think initially it was just a look at what we could do kind of thing. And it was more like a threat to the ISP saying like, listen, you guys don't want to offer high speed. We understand. Because remember, Google's in the services business. Google relies on services like YouTube.
But Verizon Files was doing the same exact thing when they started out.
Sure, and then what happened? They did a handshake agreement with Comcast and Time Warner for Spectrum, not the spread.
Right.
So they said, okay, listen, we won't compete with you if you give us Spectrum. So pretty much you're no longer competing.
Mm-hmm.
But with Google, I don't see that happening really because they're in a whole different market. They're making their money from the ad revenue generated on YouTube and whatever else service you're using. This is a big FU to the ISPs. It says, hey, you want to start regulating packets? You want to start messing with users? You want to make it a little difficult for us to deliver the content to our end user? Okay, you don't have to anymore. We're going to create the pipes. We're going to do it. This is a huge threat, and they're $70 for a gigabit? Insane.
I'd pay $100 for it.
You know, we know a lot of people in the Raleigh area. In our little group of friends. So I am really fascinated what it's going to be like for them in the next year or two when this thing actually comes out. How good
really
would the
hoping
service
for
be?
Nashville.
Oh, yeah.
I have family in Nashville, and we're actually thinking of relocating from Michigan to Nashville maybe in the next year and a half.
Yeah, so I
think that would be a huge incentive for us to go down to Nashville if they put in gigabit internet.
John, it's enough of an incentive for me. I'm moving there too.
I mean,
bunk buddies.
We're gonna relocate GFQ headquarters.
Yeah, to Nashville. We're gonna share a bunk bed, me and you. It'll be fun. Be a lot of fun. All right, guys. It's time for our picks of the week segment of the show. This is part of the show where we talk about a tech product, a website, hardware, software, whatever it is that we like this week, and we kind of feature it for you guys to pick and use and let us know if you like it. I know a lot of people have gone based on our picks, and I got an email the other day. Somebody bought a case for the LG G2 that I recommended on our picks of the week, and they said it was the best case that they've ever gotten for their phone. So sometimes it works, and other times it doesn't. Let's see today, John. What is your pick of the week today?
My pick is a iOS application. It's called Fine Scanner, and I know you said you were looking for one of these the other day.
I was.
This is something that's actually very handy to have if you need to, just somehow, even if you just have because you may need it one day. It's good to have one of these. It's called Fine Scanner, and it's free in the iTunes store right now. Normally, it's I think $1 or $2. Right now, it's free in the iTunes store. It's one of the better scanning applications for iOS out there. I've tried a couple of them. This one works really, really good. You basically just take a picture like you normally do of any document, receipt, or pages, and you can actually scan multiple pages, to create a single document. It's very easy to use. It'll auto crop the document for you. It's very cool. In fact, I'm going to do a little bit of a demonstration. I have a movie pass right here. And I'm going to take a picture of this real quick and just show you a little bit of the interface if I can.
Sure.
So just give me a second here. I'm going to go ahead.
While John talks about this, I have been looking for something like that for a while, and I've tried a couple of these scanning applications. I make that stupid decision where I'll look at the App Store and I'll see all these scanning applications, and I'll pick the most expensive one. And I picked one that was like $14.99. This is maybe a couple months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked this app. I'm like, okay, it should definitely do the job. I paid a little extra for it. It was the biggest piece of crap ever. Didn't scan it properly. Everything was off. It just looked awful. I downloaded another one. Same experience. It is really difficult to find a good app that does the scanning feature. So if this really works well, I recommend you just even have it. If it's free, just get it on your phone because there will be a situation where you need to scan something.
Yeah.
It happens to me all
Sure,
the time.
you can just take a picture. But it's so much easier when you can do something that'll auto take the picture, auto crop it, and then you can do so many more options with it. So here you can see I have it cropped. You can actually change the margins where it crops it. It'll do it automatically, but sometimes it's a little bit off, and you can easily just adjust that yourself. So I have it here. I'm going to go through some of these things. It'll crop it, and then you have some options here, whether or not you want to make it color, black and white, enhanced color. So if you want to do black and white, that's really easy to do. I don't know how well you can actually see that.
Not well. The color was better.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll just do color real quick, go through next. It'll process it. It's really easy to do. And then it has all sorts of cool information here, whether or not you want to... that's very hard to see, too.
Yeah.
I was hoping it was auto-adjusting it. But you can choose the name of it. You can tag it, which is really cool. If you want to do a tag, you make it personal work, contract, finance. You can add your own custom tags to it, which is really cool. And then once you're done with it, you can email it to yourself. You can export it. You can save it in your camera roll. And it has options in it for you to export right to Facebook, Evernote, Dropbox, Google, which is very handy. So if you want to get this into the cloud, you can do that very easily. You can export it as both a JPEG or a PDF. So if you need to email it as a PDF to a client, you can easily do that. This is one of the better scanning applications. Like I said, I tried another one out there. It didn't work very well. This one works great. Almost every time I take a photo, it'll auto crop it correctly. Sometimes, in a rare occasion, it's a little bit off, but it's so easy to correct it that it's just absolutely an easy program to use, and it has so many options to do something with it. And it even holds these documents. You can do a multi-page document and go back to it. So I just made that. I'm going to save it to my camera roll real quick. Once me access my camera. And then I don't know if you'll be able to see this again.
No.
Nah.
Blown out.
It's very hard to see. But you can go through and it'll have a list of everything that you've scanned, which is really cool. It'll tell you how many pages it is, and you can go back through everything else and just take a look at what it is that you've done. Like I got a receipt on here, which is really cool. It's great for receipts. If you want to just do something that's a receipt, you can do that in black and white, enhances it, and it's a really good program. It's Fine Scanner by Abby, or ABBY, and it's in the iTunes store currently for free. Get it now while it's for free. Otherwise, I think it's about $1 or $1.99 when it's not on sale.
Great pick, John. Phenomenal pick, actually. My pick this week is the WWE Network. What a surprise.
Boy, how did I know that?
What a surprise. My pick of the week is the WWE Network. The WWE launched their online network this week. It's $9.99 a month with a 6-month commitment. You get a free trial. If you want to try it out, you got a 1-week free trial. I signed up day one. They have pretty much every single pay-per-view ever I'm going to stop this right now before I get a takedown notice. So let me go to shows. They have every single pay-per-view ever on here. WWE, WCW, ECW. You sort of by year. They're on every device: Roku, iPad, Android, Apple TV, PS3, PS4, Xbox 360. They're everywhere you could possibly watch content on. And they have some great stuff. They have live. Now, it's not just on-demand programming. The best part is they have live programming. Like right now, they have a live schedule 24 hours a day, and they have special events that are live. So they have their original series, obviously, and then they have some in-ring special events that are live. So it's actually really well done. Now, the downside is the first week they've experienced a ton of issues. Way too many people signed up initially. They weren't ready for that. MLB Network is their backbone, and they actually put out a press release saying that they were not anticipating this many people to sign up for the service. So they had a lot of issues, but I believe it's starting to slowly get better. I think today or tomorrow will probably be the last of these issues that we're getting. On Monday, we should get a lot more content on there. So the first batch came out, so every week they're going to be putting out more content on the service. It's great, and you could do a search. Now, is it as good as Netflix? No. The player's not as good as Netflix. It's not as refined, but it's a first of its kind, really. So there's nothing like this, really. Nobody else is doing something like this. This is actually a great step in the right direction when it comes to content on the internet. I'm really excited for it. If you're a wrestling fan or you were a wrestling fan, I really recommend you try this. They have so many things on there where
the fact that you can get it on pretty much any device is amazing.
That's a great thing. And they haven't really said anything, but I could watch this on like 5 or 6 devices at any given time at the same time. So it doesn't really matter. They're not really pushing that. So I was watching, I had it on my TV upstairs. I had one thing on. I paused it. I came down. I was watching it downstairs. But for a lot of people, this is cool because they may have been into wrestling years ago and they haven't been following it, but all those pay-per-views are on. So like I've been watching a lot of stuff from the mid-90s. So it's awesome because I'm sitting there and I'm getting my work done. I'm watching WCW Hog Wild 1997. It's nostalgic. I enjoy this stuff. So it's a cool service. WWE Network's my pick of the week. Try it. You can try it for free. It's a 1-week trial, $9.99 a month with a 6-month commitment. Also, by the way, every pay-per-view from now on will be on the service. So if you're spending $60 a month on a pay-per-view, there's no need to do that. Just get the service and try it out. Pretty decent. I mean, little hiccups here and there. I still don't think sporting events look the same on the internet as they do on TV. That's my one issue with this. It's 720p, looks pretty decent, but the weird frame rate issue with sporting events kind of bothers me, but you kind of get used to it after a while. And that's my pick of the week. What'd you think, John?
It's interesting that they're doing these networks on the internet now.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. Go to our website, gfqnetwork.com. Guys, subscribe to us. I know we haven't been live for a while. We're back. We're doing the shows. We're doing some upgrades here and there to the studio. If you're watching live right now on Friday while we record the show, tonight the Andrew Zarian Show returns, one night only.
Woohoo!
Everybody's back. Kunal's going to be back. Coco's going to be back. Justin's going to be doing the news. I think we're going to be taking phone calls also. We're going to open up the phone lines. We're going to be taking phone calls. It should be a fun 2 hours. We haven't done the show in 2 years due to popular demand because everybody's been asking when we bring the show back. So we decided to bring it back for one night, and that's it. Never going to happen again. It's done. It's like when the Rolling Stones retire. Until next year.
We're going to have a proper farewell Andrew Zarian show.
No, I think we're going to do one once in a while. Once every couple months, I think we're going to bring it back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because last time you just kind of it just stopped.
It just stopped. I never announce cancellations. Something I never do. I don't announce when I'm away, and I don't announce cancellations. It's the old radio trick. You never say when you're not going to be there. Never tell people. Go to our website, gfqnetwork.com. A new gfqnetwork.com is coming in a week. Believe in a week, John. Yeah,
hopefully.
I think by the 7th we're going to be launched.
I hope so.
John has been working on this for months now, and it's really some really, really cool stuff. You already have a sneak peek to it with our new IRC chat room on gfqlive.tv. If you're on gfqlive.tv, you could register for our IRC. I recommend you use an IRC client when you're in our chat room. Also, guys, use our Amazon affiliate link. You have no idea how much it means when you guys buy something on Amazon. We get a small fraction of that sale, and we're able to buy all these upgrades. So every one of these upgrades, I believe we spent, I want to say $1,500 over the last week in upgrades, in wires, in changes to the way that we're doing stuff. And it's all been from the Amazon affiliate link. So it's like you guys are donating without donating. You're just buying stuff. You could use our Amazon affiliate link by going to gfq.co/Amazon. Or if you're watching live, you could click on that little Amazon tab on the side and bookmark it. So every time you go to Amazon, you click on that bookmark, and we get the tiny little credit from it.
By the way, if you go to our donation page, we do have links to the UK and Canadian versions of Amazon with our link in it.
Yes.
So if you are in Canada or the UK, go to our donation page. We have links specifically for you guys there.
Yes, we do. You can follow John on Twitter at Suncast. You can follow me at Andrew Zarian. And, of course, you can follow the GFQ Network at GFQ Network on Twitter and on Facebook. We're everywhere. Every social media site we're on. And that's it, guys. So we will all see you next week. Take care and stay safe, guys. Stay safe.